Hey everyone. An interesting weekend that we had. You heard about Mexico, the Mexican palace, Shine Bomb, she was rushed out by the military. She was put in underground bases. Those are the real wires. And there was a lot of panic going on over in Mexico. I mean, this is huge what's happening in Mexico. Now you got to see that my comms were confirmed. I had just told you just a few days back, I said, most likely what's going to happen is the United States isn't just going to attack Mexico, with missiles and soldiers and the U.S. military. But what's happening behind the scenes is military operations are happening on the inside. There's a lot of United States intelligence working in there with a lot of different assets. And exactly what I said happened is most likely the United States isn't going to set off events in Mexico. I'm saying this like in the open public to say that they're not going to attack missiles, the United States military going in there. It's all going to happen with the inside of the Mexican people. The citizens are going to try to overthrow the government, try to create a coup, create an insurrection. So now you saw that happen. My columns are confirmed. Now, what you're hearing in the news is it's Generation X. A lot of these people were really upset because in some of the past videos I showed you that so many different people have been killed, different leaders, so many different mayors, their regions, and all these different regions, so many officials, the head leaders, people are being assassinated, people are being killed, people are missing. Huge wars are starting in different areas. And since the beginning of the year, there's been just thousands and thousands upon thousands into the tens of thousands of dead bodies all over different regions of Mexico that the news doesn't report. The Mexican news isn't reporting about it. There are only a few outlets that are actually giving you the true sources of what's happening there and a war breaking out. Now we're at this moment to where you can see a lot of things that's connected to Israel. You have to understand this post that comes from the letter 17. This is the number 17. From these 17 operations, why 17 told you Israel is saved for last. It's not going to be later. It's actually happening now. Everything that you're seeing with the Epstein, what you're seeing with Trump breaking them, MAGA apart slowly, the confusion, anger, some of the biggest supporters of Trump leaving, from Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson changing, getting angry with Trump, certain senators, congressmen, congresswomen, MTG, Margie Taylor Greene, going against Trump not supporting her. These are all operations. There's a lot of stuff happening. And a lot of people will talk about even Margie Taylor Greene, that she's having an affair, she's doing some other stuff. Whatever she's doing, I'm sure that's consensual. She's an adult. Whatever's happening on that front. But what's more important that people still can't really understand is all of these are kind of intentional. I keep telling you that it's not really Trump that holds power. it's not really Trump that's controlling the military. It has always been behind the scenes. Powerful elites controlling the military operations, the military controlling presidents, placing them. So a lot of presidents are 4-year presidents or 8-year presidents, and people who are a lifetime inside the military spend most of their lifetime inside of military intelligence, running operations. For a long time, they have no respect for presidents. The president doesn't need to know what's going on because he's just here for a while. He just needs to get out, give some money if he can, then get out of the way. This is how countries are run for a long time. But for the first time, powerful people inside the military put a powerful person in place, which is Trump. And they're running these military operations to expose the cartels, the drug trade, the banking system, the corruption, what's going on with elections inside the United States, a lot of different countries connected to the banking corruption, connected to a lot of things, money laundering, and it's all connected to a lot of money disappearing in all these different countries. Now, when I'm talking about 17, these operations telling you that Israel is saved for last, you're watching it already happen. You're watching all of these different countries that is going against Israel. You have a lot of people that are, they're acknowledging the Palestinian state. A lot of countries want to put embargoes on Israel. There are people who want to have Netanyahu arrested. Recently, one of Europe's biggest ally, NATO's biggest ally inside of Europe, the country of Turkey, said that, that they also want to perhaps, have world courts go after the regimen of Netanyahu. So you're seeing a huge, gigantic awakening in the world. Like I've said before, there's a lot of people for the first time in history, for a long time, actually the first time in history that people are really waking up against this country, Israel. And it's not about really the people. You have good people that are there. Don't get what I'm saying confused that I don't like them, that there's something evil. They're also fighting inside of their country against the deep state operations that they know that's been running. And I can't say a lot of these names, but that name starts with the word Z, Now, there's a lot of censorship even on this word. So we're talking about Z, and how can we say it? Z, I, and then KISS will put that all together. So these Z people, these operations, that the globalist operations, that's connected all the way back to the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, how they brought them into power, these operations. That's connected back to the old United Kingdom, it goes all the way back to the UK Majesty. A lot of how Israel was created, how they got the land, a lot of these different things. It goes back to globalist operations. Now, for the first time, you're seeing the exposure of globalism on the world stage. And countries are turning directly against Israel. So Israel, saved for last, that's actually happening now. You're seeing the exposure. You're seeing the exposure happening over in Mexico. That she's Jewish, Scheinbaum. People are trying to bring her down. The military had to, put her. They had to put her into underground bases. They had to secure her, get her out of the way. There was so much panic that was happening inside of Mexico, and people didn't really expect this to happen, but we've been giving you the calms here of what's going to happen. So that's just to kind of let you know on these different fronts how Trump played this game, how Trump completely flipped, how Trump completely flipped around on what he was doing. He flipped many times, the Epstein stuff. Now he's saying release it all. He's saying release it all. But these are stages that takes time, because when we talk about Epstein, we're talking about a national security crisis that's connected over to almost all the countries' weapon trades, connected to United States banking systems. It's huge, it's gigantic, to the trafficking stuff, but it's connected to the elites, the pedo operations. It's so gigantic, it reaches into Congress, it reaches into Senate. That's why Trump doesn't want to directly expose it. He wanted the Democrats to expose it. Like I was saying last week, and I've said this many times, that Trump just can't go out exposing everything. It has to look like the people are demanding it. It has to look like the people's leaders are demanding this to come out. Because all of this is going to grow. These people who seemingly look like they're against Trump now, Marley Taylor Greene, Candace Owens, Tucker, a lot of people are going to talk against Trump. Joe Rogan will kind of get on that bandwagon when time comes. MAGA is going to be inside this huge, gigantic confusion, anger, be upset with Trump. MAGA will be against each other because of the sides that they're going to pick. I said all these events are going to happen, and it's happening. But these are game theory, military operations at the highest levels that's happening. And everything is being positioned for the United States people to see everything come out, the corruption, the exposure. It's almost like everybody's fighting, whether it's on the internet, writing, everybody's trying to get their voice out there. They want the truth to be unveiled. They want everything to keep coming out. So these different countries, like Venezuela, the military operations behind it is that the exposure has to kind of come from the inside. The exposure of the corruption. Inside of Venezuela, the coup is growing. You heard about the coup that was uncovered. United States assets, intelligence, people got caught. What Maduro was talking about, that they were creating a coup, the United States. But that was happening, that coup. The coup in Mexico that I told you was going to happen, that this is going to happen first, this coup and exposure that's happening. Now you're going to see that over in Ukraine. This huge, gigantic corruption is going to start to be uncovered. The Ukrainian people are going to be upset with what's going to be discovered, what's happening with all the money, even for their children, their husbands, fathers, people that were lost, killed inside of the war, where all the money went. There's going to be so much financial money that they were supposed to get, for different reasons from the military, for their children, their husbands, their fathers serving in the military. All that money's gone, disappeared. People are really worried. There's a full corruption that's being unearthed over in Ukraine. And this corruption scandal is leading all the way to the finance ministry, to the top leaders. This huge, gigantic operations of a massive money laundering operation scheme connected even over to the Ukrainian energy sector that was stealing hundreds of billions of dollars. It's going to, billions of dollars it's going to lead to. And the person who gave the authority, the person who allowed this to happen, was Zelensky. Now, New York Times has just broke a story on this also. And they're saying that there's $100 million that's missing. And it's directly connected to Zelensky. Zelensky was running these operations. He's the one who authorized it. Now the people in Ukraine are getting a lot of information from the radio, from the different AI systems that are running information to their phones, to their computers, to social media there. There's a lot of exposure. The Ukrainian people are going to get really upset. That anger's coming. There's a coup that's growing. There's a revolution that's coming. And they're scared inside of Ukraine. So that's why just a few days ago, before the New York Times article dropped, Zelensky stealing money from the Ukrainian people, authorizing this huge, gigantic corruption scheme, even through the energy sector. The people are hearing about it. Everybody's getting angry. The coup is starting. So they're trying to get ahead of the story, and they were trying for a few days now, through the radio, through the news outlets. They've been saying now the Ukrainian men, the younger men, they're allowed to leave the country if they want to. They can come back into the country, and they don't have to be forced into the war, into conscriptions. They don't have to be drafted. And they're really trying to make amends with the Ukrainian people. Before they were, you saw the videos, they were getting teachers, even doctors, people from stores, people just walking in the streets. They would just get them into these different vans, ship them off into the front lines, into the Russian war. So this huge, gigantic revolution is happening around the world, a huge, gigantic exposure of globalist operations, of why Trump directly went to Europe, a few months back, and he confronted United Nations. He confronted the globalist elites directly, But I keep telling you, because people are still kind of mixed up about Israel. Why is Trump protecting Israel? Why is Trump always protecting Israel? He's protecting Israel because it's a little country, and there's all these Muslim countries around it. They can bomb it, they can destroy it, annihilate the whole country. Trump's trying to save face for them because he knows what's going to happen in Israel. A new regiment is already forming. A new regiment is already building. Half of the world countries is going against Israel. They don't want to trade with them. They don't want their products with them. They're recognizing Palestine, like I was talking about. This huge exposure of Israel is going to keep on growing. And Trump has to keep face for them because Trump is looking at the future. Projects, operations over in Palestine, over in Israel, over in Gaza. He's looking at the future with a lot of different operations, joint operations that Russia is eventually going to be part of, that China is eventually going to be part of, India is going to be a part of. People from the Middle East are going to be part of this huge, gigantic project to rebuild the Middle East in that area. The future is what Trump is working on. That way, when everything settles, long after tribunals, long after these wars, the exposure of the drug trade, the money, financial systems, the exposure of a lot of stuff that's going to come out through Epstein. In the future, what's really going to happen with that? That's a saga, like I'm telling you. But everything that you've seen is being positioned to expose the globalist operations. For the first time in history, like I said, people are denying Israel. This never happened before. So you're watching so many things on different fronts that's really confusing for people who don't understand the military operations behind the scenes. People have a story out there that Marley Margie Taylor Greene, that she's corrupt, she's being blackmailed, this kind of stuff. That's absolutely nonsense. She knows what's happening. Intelligence can always reach out at any moment to let her know what's really happening. She's being positioned for the future to be in a certain place. Tucker Carlson is being positioned in a certain place for the future. Candace Owens is being positioned for a certain reason for the future. Joe Rogan is being positioned to be in a certain place for the future. A lot of different people inside conservatives are being positioned in a certain place for the future. Because that future of the positions that they're going to be put into, that's going to help push the real exposure of what was happening with Israel, the corruption inside the United States, connected to senators, connected to Congress, corporations. And it's not going to be coming from Trump camp. It's not going to be coming from here. It's going to be coming from a new force, a new group of people that the United States people are going to be behind, pushing it, showing the exposure. Later on, these operations here, this new patriot movement, it's still going to connect back with Trump in 2028. It's all going to come back together again. The operations, the plans. So you've heard this now. Trump knows how to be on TV. Trump knows the art of the deal. Trump was even on WWF, World Wrestling Federation. On World Wrestling Federation, if people don't understand it, it's a show. But the show is created to create the highest tension among the viewers, the people who are watching it, to create excitement, to create a powerful drama, to create a powerful story, to create this tension. And that's what Trump is doing. That's what Trump is actually doing in public. He's creating so much tension. So there's a lot of stuff happening. And this is all connected to Israel is saved for last. We're inside of this huge, gigantic last stage of these 17 operations that's global, that's connected to a lot of countries turning against it, turning against Israel. There's so much stuff happening, you guys, that I've been trying to give you the full story on, giving you the information, because this is all connected. This is huge, the big part of this. It's connected to, how can I say this? Because this is the story that I'm going to make for the special video for the gold members that'll come out this week. Eventually, the silver members, you guys are also going to see this video, but I'll just tell you a piece of it right now. It's all connected to underground bases, underground technology. It's connected over to spiritual events, satanic events, the good energy at the highest levels, the bad energy at the highest levels of evilness. This is what the elites are doing. The reason why there's secret societies around the world, how people join those secret societies at the highest levels, how they can become these powerful figures around the world, whether they're inside corporations, banking systems, inside certain government sectors at the highest levels, inside the military. They're connected to operations of pedo operations. Behind the scenes, a lot of people have put the reports out there that in order to be part of these skull and bones, in order to be part of the Illuminati at the highest level, 33rd degree Masons, and I showed you a list. There are hundreds of secret societies around the world in different countries. In order to be a part of that, they have to trust you. You have to give all your trust to them, and then they have to trust you completely, that you'll never expose the secrecy of this controlled society that runs the military, that runs the government, that is connected to financial systems, connected to wars, connected to human trafficking, connected to the weapons trade, the drug trade. These powerful secret societies in all the countries, they're kind of working with each other. They have been working with each other for a long time. And large part of this is also connected to Jesuits all around the world working together. A lot of different powerful societies, and the way they keep the secret, the way they bring you into the secret club, the way they trust you is they have to have blackmail on you. They have to see you be with a young child. They have to see you doing awful things to them, or else they have to see you, unalive someone, to kill, to hurt someone, and they have to film it, they have to record it, there has to be witnesses there. That's the dark part that people don't really understand. The real truth that's really even darker than that. It goes all the way to the prime ministers, even up to the UK. It goes all the way operations that are connected to deep state operations that's connected over to King Charles, connected to Jimmy Savile, the biggest pedo operations that was happening inside of the UK, where all of these children were at, that they're supposed to be safe at, these hospitals, these different places that, these different psychiatric wards. There's so much stuff that is just completely dark, and everybody was aware of this. Everybody is aware of who Epstein was. Everybody was aware of the operations that Epstein was a part of running through the whole world. Everybody was aware of what Jimmy Savile was doing over in the UK. Everybody at the highest levels knows what was going on in the Netherlands, what's going on in Belgium with these pedo operations. These deep, dark societies, it's really even darker than people can even imagine. And it goes to what we've been talking about, underground bases, what's underneath a lot of cities around the world. So that's what this channel is about, is to let you understand what's happening behind the scenes, the real cables, the real wires, the military operations. The reason why I've been giving you a lot of information on what's happening really in different countries, and how a lot of this stuff, it's prophetic. A lot of this stuff, it's not really about prophecy. It has nothing to do with that, but I'm just using that term. It has to do with important wires. This important wires is giving information to different parts of the world, in different languages, different countries. There's an exposure of the Great Awakening movement that's growing, that's happening, and it's growing really quickly. So this is just to give you an insight, because this video that I'm going to drop, that's going to be coming out, it's connected to what people call furries. As you learn later on, Thomas Crook is into furries. This is an attraction to dressing up like an animal, and people do these different crazy stuff. Now, inside the elites, inside of UK, Germany, France, different countries around the world, Japan, South Korea, United States, these furries, these orgy furries is based off of, it's based off of these intimate, I'll use that word intimate, this relationship of intimacy between humans, between animals, the original basis of it. And what was happening underneath these places, inside of certain countries, inside of certain areas, It's the same thing of what was going on with the pedo operations, the blackmail operations, but this is even just as sinister. What was really happening with these furries, how people, are having these parties dressed up like animals, these sex parties. Now that's connected to operations that's underneath Las Vegas, underneath Los Angeles. We're talking about these huge, gigantic military complex systems throughout Nevada, throughout Las Vegas, different casinos, a lot of different casinos, and a lot of these underground lines. And the reason why they go out to the deserts, to certain regions, military bases. These bases, there's a lot of different energies around them. Some of them were really dark bases inside of the United States. Nellis Air Force Base deep underneath, Groom Lake underneath, the same thing, Area 51, what's underneath, different parts of the United States, different parts of the world, where a lot of elites, a lot of secret societies that's connected over to generals, connected over to the military industrial complex systems. They're hosting these different events, and then also these satanic rituals that take place with the pedo operations. And it takes place with animals. It takes place with some of this stuff that's really dark, satanic, evil, but also these sex rings that's connected over to what people call furries. And that's why there's a lot of connection to this trans operations of these different shooters. Like from Tyler Robinson, his lover, over to Thomas Crooks, the assassin, almost the attempted assassination of Trump, why they were into this culture, why this culture is being pushed on the world. The reason why it's being pushed on the world is because they're trying to legalize it for the future, for it to happen. That it's okay for humans, it's okay for teenagers, kids to have these different intimate relationships, because this is what they were planning for the deep state World Economic Forum future objectives that they want to create after 2030. Full mind control, using different technologies to control the world, control the weather, control the flow of information, using all of this different technology to affect the DNA, to create wars, to create new laws, create new pandemics, create powerful censorships, but then keep on moving forward to allow this pedo operation with children's to exist legally. And then all this would lead over to furries, for humans to exist with this intimate relationships with animals. Later on, that's going to build on to what they were trying to create, almost like a really dark cabal, Moloch, satanic empire. That's why everybody was meeting at Bohemian Grove. Now it's over it's like 140 years now. People are meeting at Bohemian Grove inside of California. The reason why people were doing that is because you had all these world leaders from different countries, presidents of the United States, all the newspapers, executives, the people, the most famous people that wrote books, they all went there. And there was this huge, gigantic, dark stuff connected to the real Moloch. That's why they had the Moloch, the beast, the god of child sacrifice. They have that over there at Bohemian Grove. That's why all of these world prime minister, presidents, top generals were going to Bohemian Grove. They were all being part of these operations of blackmail, satanic operations. And now this goes all the way to the big levels of what people call the adrenochrome operations. So this is huge. This is massive when we talk about Epstein, when we talk about a lot of operations that the CIA was a part of throughout the world, human trafficking, the FBI part of these operations. It's gigantic, you guys. And this leads all the way to Silicon Valley. It leads to underground bases. So you got to be patient. It's a saga, what Trump is doing. Everything you see is a setup that's moving forward. It's all for a reason, for MAGA to kind of fall apart and then come back together, whether it's underneath MAGA or underneath the new patriot movement. Eventually, Trump, world military operations are trying to create a world united movement that's actually going to move together. These huge, gigantic project operations. So I just want to tell you what's happening. That this is actually happening from this post of 17 operations Israel has saved for last year inside of it already. And the exposure is going to keep on coming. Now people are talking about Epstein directly in communications with congressmen, directly in communications with senators. And that's why there's going to be an investigation into that. But everybody knows inside of intelligence agencies, Trump knows it, even though it says Trump says release everything. It's the FBI that's going to have the power to release what they want, redact the stuff that they want. They're not going to release these videos, these thousands and thousands of terabytes of videos, enough to fill up a whole house of all the evidence that they have of all the videos, the data, the computers, the servers, everything that they have. These documents that they're releasing, that's just the small little bottom part, but a lot of stuff is going to build on this, and people are going to want more. Certain people that I'm telling you about, they're going to push to have this released. So different countries, in a way, psychological operations is taking place, but you have been under psychological operations since you were born. That was through the medicines you took, it was through the foods you consumed, through the government that you thought was real, through the music industry, television industry. The whole thing are psychological operations that was taking place. Now there's a new form of psychological operations that I was telling you already. The white hats are moving a lot of these operations to get people angry, to create division among what seems like one group, because a lot of exposure is going to come through that. So I was really open to tell you that, you know, at the beginning of the year, I said, get ready. You're going to go into 5th, 6th generation warfare. These operation white hats are going to control. They're going to make everybody angry. It's all going to be for a reason of why all this has to happen, and the people must fight. These operations is taking place in all of these different countries that you're seeing it. So have faith. We're moving forward. You know, there's a lot of different battlefronts happening, and we're moving forward. And that's what's really happening. Now, talking about battlefronts, Carol Dimitri, on Friday or Saturday, he was saying that there's going to be a huge attack that's going to happen. Get ready for this. He was putting this all over X, and he was telling people that this is going to happen. You have no idea. Then a few hours later, there's a massive attack over inside of Ukraine. Russia came in with like close to 500 drones, missile attacks. A lot of inside operations happen inside of Ukraine. And then at the same time, Ukraine is kind of given up and say, well, we're not going to have people be conscripted, be forced into the war. Ukrainians can leave and come if they want to. Now you see that the capital of Ukraine is being directly attacked. The forces are almost surrounded in certain places. This is what Carol Dimitri is giving huge columns to talk about what can happen. The reason why Carol Dimitri is talking about this is because he's connected to different banks, different investors around the world, from Europe to Russia to the United States. all over the place to the Middle East. He's running different financial institutions over in Russia. So when he says something, he's giving huge direct comms to let people know where everything is going to shift to. And people are moving all this money connected to trillions of dollars, different corporations, industries that want to trade, and they're watching the stock market move, and they know that something is coming down the line, and that Dmitry is giving comms of a lot of stuff that he's talking about this letter of the alphabet. And he's talking about this letter about Trump, an alliance behind the scenes, operations. He's talking about Trump is going to end up showing the truth to the world of what's going to happen. So that's happening on that front over in Russia. So now Trump is going to label Maduro's regimen. He wants to label them as a terrorist organization. He wants to get that inside the United States archives. He wants to get that on the books. And I think it was called Del Sol. This cartel operation from Venezuela, that Maduro is actually running these operations there. Yeah, they're called Cartel del Sol. Trump wants to get that on the records. Once that is on the United States records archives and they're designated as a terrorist organizations, now the military can strike directly inside of Venezuela. And there's people inside of Venezuela that are helping facilitate things, that a lot of white hats, a lot of good people don't die. They're getting all prepared for this. Things I said was going to happen, it's all kicking off. There's operations running through these different islands that's happening. I had told you one day that there was, on a certain island, that there was some trials going on having to do with J.P. Morgan, having to do with Epstein on these islands. It was an open trial. But I said on the other side of the island, there's military tribunals happening. They're watching everybody that comes in. This is when a lot of people from, the richest people in the world, some of the most powerful people had to go to this island. And that included Sergey Brin. He had to come on in. He had to testify. He was summoned. He went there. At the same time, he went over to the military tribunals. And they gave all the information on all of these different islands. That's why there's military operations happening now on these islands, is because a lot of officials, a lot of military from these islands, the United States is aware. They have all the evidence of all of the operations that's happening. That's why you have United States soldiers in different regions. They had to sign non-disclosure agreements with the United States military, not to talk about the military operations, not to tell their family where they are in different regions on these little islands. So these military operations is huge. It's massive. Trump, United States military, is in a huge area of the Caribbean because a lot of the human trafficking stuff connected to Epstein, Virgin Islands, a lot of this stuff has been going on for centuries. And Trump is securing that whole region. Military operations are already happening. Now you have United States' biggest warship, that people call the Ford, is in the region. Trump is getting prepared to strike over in Venezuela. This is all going to happen. It's all going to be imminent. Later on over in Mexico, United States military, they're going to have a squaring off with the cartels directly. This is all going to grow this huge event Now, at the same time, from Venezuela, Colombia, all the way to Middle America, up to Mexico, these different regions that were training, that had like guerrillas, like guerrilla warfare, a lot of these different kind of soldiers that are paid to go to different countries to create chaos, different kind of paramilitary forces, a lot of operations of military age men that came into the United States, during the Biden administration, that came across the border. They're going to set up operations inside the United States to try to create an attack inside of the United States. And we all knew that this was going to happen. This is what we've been talking about, of what's going to happen. Now, this is eventually all going to happen, and we're getting closer to that moment, to where something's going to happen inside the United States connected to these cartels, because Trump is really pushing hard what's happening in Mexico. That's connected to secret operations with the United States military intelligence, pushing a coup, moving all the information through the internet, moving it to Generation Z, the same thing over in Colombia. What's igniting, it's going to start to happen. And what's happening in Venezuela on a huge, gigantic, massive level. There are a lot of operations happening, you guys. And I wish I could talk on that a lot more, because it's a huge subject. Now China arrives in Venezuela. They're there. They have missiles there. They have certain defense systems that they can, try to fight against the United States to help Venezuela. Russia wants to help Venezuela. They've reached out. But Trump is still going to go after Venezuela. And China's going to step aside. Russia's going to step aside. You might hear a lot of threats that they're going to do this. They're going to retaliate. They're going to send missiles. They're going to do this stuff. But it's kind of this huge, gigantic show. After the collapse of Venezuela, after the coup, after a new regime is put into place, after Trump takes out a lot of cartels there, a new regime will come in. Now that new regime that will come in a way, Russia, China is going to work with the new regime. Trump, the United States is going to work with the new regime. By that time, in the future coming at the end of next year, you're going to see a huge exposure of the CIA operations that was helping facilitate these drug trade around the world. Everything's going to keep on coming out through the Epstein, through the banking systems, who is working with these cartels. All of these different operations, from the banking systems to the United States banking systems to the intelligence. The full exposure is going to keep on coming out. And eventually that's also going to be with Epstein. That's also going to be connected to United Nations. So this stuff is huge. It's big. And I know that some people, they just want it to be done. It can just happen quickly. But it has to look like countries, in all of these countries, that people from Romania to Germany, is going to happen, to France, to Italy, to the UK, to Canada. The people have to fight. The people have to get so angry, they have to demand it. The leaders at the highest levels must fight to bring out the information. And it's going to look like these countries, they all fought, including the United States, that you fought inside of this to help expose the corruption. So that's what's really happening, is behind the scenes, the military is running operations, silent operations. But on top, what you see in public are people angry, the riots, demonstrations, the exposure of corruption, what's happening, a lot of different things. So I know it's hard, guys, but we got to keep on moving, and military is the only way. Yeah, Zelensky is caught inside this huge thing. It's very interesting to me. It's very interesting. Then just a little bit jumping around. You heard about Michelle Obama. She's not going to run for president. She decided not to. As everybody's been talking about Michelle Obama, she's going to do this. I kind of had said already before that they're going to ensure that she cannot run for president. As the exposure of what's going to happen with Macron's wife is going to hit a new level next year with Brigitte Macron. Everybody's going to be upset about this inside of France. A discussion's going to evolve. Things are going to happen. Most likely, what the deep state will eventually do is they'll try to get rid of Brigitte Macron to bury that story, just to hide it. That's most likely what they'll try to do. But the exposure of Brigitte Macron is huge. It's gigantic. Those are military operations. And that's going to keep on growing, you guys. So the same story over with Obama, same story over with Michelle. I had told you the military already told him, you're not going to run for president. If you do, we're going to expose everything quickly. And that's why there was a lot of chaos happening with the Obamas. What was really happening? Obama stressed, Michelle stressed. The military's telling them, okay, keep playing your part, but you're not running for president. Do this. So that's kind of what's really happening on that front. And I already said that this was going to happen. I said this a long time ago. So now Michelle Obama is out. Macron is going to be going out. His wife, I had a discussion with a good friend over this, and he was saying the same thing, that this is what the wires indicate is they want to get rid of Brigitte, try to bury the story because it's going to be a huge, gigantic scandal, and the French people are going to be in shock. The truth really comes out. So, interesting stuff of what's happening, especially with this Thomas Crooks guy being a furry trans. And I told you that was connected to the deep state, trying to push open relationship with animals for the future of what they were staging this for. Then also connected to really strange stuff. And this Thomas Crooks stuff, Trump assassination, I've already talked about this story before it happened. I said, this is going to happen to Trump. He's going to survive. He's going to get powerful. But it's going to be staged. But there was the deep state who was planning this for this day at a certain time. And as this event was close, the real event of the assassination was coming, then the white hats jumped inside of the event on the same day. People were arrested. Things happened, but they let the event carry on, and eventually the whole thing was staged. Those were white hat operations. So if you're new to the channel, I'm just trying to give you some context on that story. That's why the FBI doesn't want to talk about it. Kash Patel's trying to bury the story. Kash Patel's this huge, gigantic, strange anomaly. He's covering up the stories. He's there to bury the stories. He's there to try to shut down a lot of stuff because, like I said, these are military operations. They have to make sure that there's no evidence that can be found from the body. That's why Thomas Crooks was immediately, incinerated. They got rid of the body. They burned up the body, all the evidence. Nobody took any blood samples, skin samples, photos, nothing. Everything disappeared. The autopsy wasn't even fully completed yet, but yet, his body was cremated. And then where he was at, Thomas Crooks, when he got shot, the blood scene, the crime scene, really, really quickly, within 16 hours, the whole place was scrubbed and it was clean. And the FBI cleaned it themselves. They didn't have other professional people connected to events like this that come in and clean it, collect evidence, ensure everything is done. The FBI went there immediately. They scrubbed the scene. They cleaned it. Now you're hearing about the furries that he's connected over to this. The reason why I'm saying Kash Patel is an anomaly is because in this video that I'm going to drop this week for gold members, but like I said, silver members, you'll eventually see these videos. In this video, we're going to talk about what's underneath the Bellagio, what's underneath different parts of Las Vegas, how that's connected over to the shooting of Mohammed bin Salman, all the way to these underground lines underneath Las Vegas that connects out to different regions of these underground military bases throughout Nevada. And then what was happening underneath a lot of those bases, underneath the military areas that's connected to dark operations, connected to rituals, connected to elites, bringing out people from all over the world. They came into Las Vegas. They went into certain casinos, and they went underground. A lot of people have talked about the underground lines underneath Las Vegas. That's just for the elites. That's just only for really high-ranking members of United States leaders inside of Las Vegas, inside of Nevada, inside the United States. But those lines, underground systems, they actually go out into the desert to different regions, like I was talking about. Area 51, different mesas, different places, complexes. And what was happening along there a long time ago, a lot of different satanic operations. Like I said, you have Bohemian Grove that was going on for over a century, and why they were obsessed with Moloch, the god of child sacrifice, why they're upset and why they do that every time they converge. They kind of have like a fake meeting on top where everybody's invited. Some people can make videos. Then they just have a fake statue of this evil devil god, Moloch. Now they create the scene of a person being sacrificed with the fire, people chanting in robes, evil. Why would people be doing this? They say, well, it's just for a good time. It's not nothing serious. But why would you do that for 100 years? Because what's really going on underground, what's really happened in different areas of Bohemian Grove, it's really dark. And what was really happening in the old times, before there was television cameras, before people were taking pictures, that was actually really happening on top. A lot of this child pedo stuff with the sacrifices, the full gay rituals, blackmail rituals that they have, that's going on there. It's huge. It's gigantic. And those operations are connected to the military industrial complex systems and underground bases, different parts of the world, different parts of the city underground. And that's why I said this is connected to tunnels, it's connected to Satanism, connected to spirits, it's connected to a lot of gigantic operations, and to expose everything of the military industrial complex systems, the banking systems, the globalist operations, what was going on with this huge gigantic thing with Epstein, connected to elites, connected to intelligence agencies, connected over to Israel. This is all happening. People are talking about it. It's all happening. Countries are falling. Military is coming out. There's a huge disruption inside of the drug trade that was going into the United States. Even in the fentanyl is being cut off. There is so much money that is being seized that the United States isn't talking about it. They'll break the story next year on a lot of money that was seized. And it's going to shock people how much money is seized. Then all of this stuff about missing children, it's just going to explode. A lot of things are coming, you guys. I mean, it's massive, this stuff that I'm hearing and what's going to happen. Now the NBA is asking for the phones and emails of at least 10 Los Angeles Lakers employees, including 2 of LeBron James' associates, as part of an investigation into illegal sports gambling. It's going to keep on growing, guys. Like I said, that wasn't even the end. That was just the beginning. I said that with the NBA when that happened with Chauncey Billups. I think that was his name. The NBA coach, that was coaching. And then a lot of different wrestlers connected to the mob operations. And I said, this is just the beginning, guys. Now LeBron James, the biggest star right now, one of the top stars inside the NBA, a lot of people. This investigation is growing. People are scared. And it's just going to keep on growing. And eventually we'll get the real wires of how it's connected to all this NBA, not officials, but the CEOs, all the different investors from different countries, the money, the financial system. This is what it's all going towards slowly. Everything is going to be exposed to this gigantic financial infrastructure system, corruption, money laundering operations systems. And Trump is going to start to go towards bringing out that new system, a gigantic new banking system to ensure that this stuff is never going to happen again. So, yeah, you guys, just lots of things happening, and you kind of have to think about it in many ways about this Epstein stuff. Ghislaine Maxwell, the elites, globalist operations, secret societies, military industrial complex, the corruption of the FBI, the CIA, the military intelligence. They're running the court systems connected to George Soros, connected to the globalist elites, banking systems, Davos groups. They're running this huge, gigantic world system with the Jesuits who have infiltrated the judicial systems, the banking systems, the education systems. This huge, gigantic world dark system that they were controlling for a long time. Why would they allow Jeffrey Epstein to be captured? Why would they allow him, why would they allow him even to come into the hands of the United States military to be arrested underneath Trump? And then why would they allow it also that Ghislaine Maxwell is still alive? How did that happen? How did a lot of this stuff happen? Who would initiate to have Jeffrey Epstein arrested? Because the deep state would be in sheer panic. The military would be in panic. Everybody would be in panic because Epstein had everything on everyone. From the prime ministers that he was with from around the world to Israel, Ehud Barak, to everybody from the CIA directors that came to visit him, from FBI officials. It's just gigantic. Why would they allow Epstein to be arrested? How did all of that happen? Who would even think of having Epstein arrested if the deep state is controlling everything? Who would even allow Ghislaine Maxwell to be arrested if the deep state is controlling everything? How did this even allowed to be happen? Because Epstein's going to be one of the biggest, gigantic scandals in the world. The biggest, gigantic national security crisis to ever exist. This Epstein saga is so freaking massive. Like I said, it connects to China, espionage, trading secrets, moving stuff with the military, the Clintons, sending stuff over to China, technology, connected to GDP, Mexico. It's connected to everything. The weapons trade, human trafficking, it's connected to everything, creating wars. It's connected to the Iran-Contra scandal. It's all connected over to the Oklahoma City bombing. It's just gigantic who this Epstein guy is. Why would the deep state try to arrest Epstein? How would that serve them? And if they knew that the white hats that were coming after Epstein, the deep state would have known about it. From the FBI to everybody would have all known about it, that they're coming after Epstein. They would have warned him. They would have killed him. They would have got him out of there. The same thing with Ghislaine Maxwell. She would have never been in jail. Epstein had a kill switch. He had this on the internet, different people. If he ever got arrested, he can bring out all the blackmail stuff on different people to ensure that they help him, to ensure that he gets out of jail. Why did Trump initiate operations with military operations to bring down Epstein? Why was Trump the first person to really report it to the police, what Epstein was doing? A lot of people say he was an informant, and I've said that before, that yes, he was working with operations, FBI to initiate operations. But Trump, like I said, for a long time, he's working with the military, not just now when he was put in place. He's been working with them back since the 1980s. He was intentionally positioned to be placed into deep state operations of the Rothschilds, to expose the operations of the Rothschilds through the banking systems. Military intelligence operations were tracking stuff through the Rothschilds banking systems that begins with Trump, dating back to the 1980s. That all connects to a lot of different operations of Epstein later on. Trump is a mysterious person, but he's super intelligent. There's a reason why he doesn't drink alcohol. There's a reason why he was connected to a lot of people that knew what the real deep state was doing. He knows what's really happening with all of these powerful, deep, dark operations connected to Epstein, pedo operations, human trafficking, what the Rothschilds were really doing, what secret societies are really doing. He knows everything about what JFK really knew, what RFK really knew, RFK Jr.'s father, of what he really knew inside of intelligence, and then everything else connected to aliens, you guys. We're coming into these powerful events of disclosure. We're coming into these powerful events of these operations of exposing Israel, what's happening. So you guys be patient out there. Keep calm. Keep that energy. You're a small few in the world who has a lot of vast information of what's happening. I'll see you guys on Wednesday.